Good morning, everyone. Good day, good evening, and good night, wherever you're on the planet, whatever time zone. This is John Dupuy, and this is the last interview for our first season of Spirit Tech Talk number 7. And today we have with us Lion Goodman. And let me, as I often do with these talks, let me just read some of the biography or the bio here, so you can get a sense of who Lion is and what we're talking about and what we're going to talk about today. So Lion Goodman is the CEO of Luminary Leadership Institute, an initiatory program for leaders of businesses and organizations. He helps high-achieving individuals, executives, business owners discover their true purpose, live into their highest virtues, and fully manifest the unique and extraordinary life they want to achieve. It's very exciting stuff, Lion. I'm looking forward to this. Lion is one of the early pioneers of spiritual technology, and in the 70s created the Quintessence Catalog of Consciousness Tools, a catalog of tools and technologies for awakening, meditation, and self-development. It lasted only 2 years, but began a long 40-year search to find the best transformational technologies. Lion is the creator of Clear Your Beliefs, a methodology for permanently transforming beliefs at the core of the psyche, and has taught this powerful healing method to hundreds of coaches, therapists, and healers around the world, and turned one component into an iPhone app for mindful embodiment and energetic clearing called iClearit. And should I go on, Lion, or should we jump in the conversation from there?
Well, that's probably enough to start with. There's a long history of exploration, which has been thrilling, and it gets boring being read. So let's go right into the.
Yeah, as juicy as I try to read it, it's still reading. So let me just, before we get into what you're doing today, how did you get to the point where you started this company or this catalog in the 70s in transformational tools? There has to be a backstory to that too. Can you tell us a little about that?
Sure. I was very fortunate to meet a true teacher when I was only 19 years old. His name was T.D. Lingo, and he had a school in the mountains of Colorado called the Adventure Trails Survival School and Brain Laboratory. And it was 250 acres of beautiful mountain property with a few log cabins, pump well, no electricity, no running water. And he taught survival skills, but not just physical survival, but also emotional, intellectual, and spiritual survival. And I studied with him for 4 years, and really he awakened me. He was my first true teacher, somebody who said, here's who you really are, here's what you can become, study the brain, and learn how to manage and control your own consciousness. So that was excellent. I actually dropped out of college to study with him, and then went back to college and got my degree in physiology and human consciousness in 1975. So that was a long time ago. And it was actually one of the first degrees granted in consciousness studies in the country. I haven't heard of anyone getting an earlier one.
Where did you go to school?
University of Colorado in Boulder.
Really? Wow, good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Boulder is Boulder. So
yes.
You have that going on at the same time you're going to school.
Right.
So.
And Lingo also taught us power politics. He taught us how to use the university as a tool rather than the university using us as tools. And so I started an organization, a student organization called Cooperative Consciousness there. We had access to all of the facilities of the university. We put on programs, not just for Lingo, but for all different organizations, and one of the things we did in 1975 was we put on the Celebration of Consciousness in Boulder, and we had 60 organizations talking about consciousness. We took over a big park, and we had movies and speakers and yoga practices and meditation instruction. So that was quite something. So that was what really got me going, and through that experience and meeting all these crazy, wonderful people, I realized that there were all these tools that nobody had ever put together. And so that's when two friends and I started the Quintessence Catalog of Consciousness Tools, and we reached out to all the people around the country that had developed meditation aids, yantras and tantras, and meditation benches and instruction manuals and weird electronic things, light sound machines, one of the first ones that existed back then. And we put a mail order catalog together, and we gathered all the products together and went to the Humanistic Psychology Association meeting in Princeton, and we set up our wares, and we had like $4,000 in sales in 3 days. It was like, wow, look, we're in business. You know, it was amazing for college kids, you know, who didn't know anything about business.
And $4,000 in '75, was it? Or
That was a lot of money.
It was quite a bit of money. Yeah, it's some money now. It is really some money then.
Right. So that began the process. Unfortunately, I didn't know anything about business, and while we were in New York, the Village Voice found us and interviewed us, and they did a column on us, and they called us the Sears Roebuck of the Mind.
Nice.
It was really great. Anyway, I didn't know much about business. We kind of struggled from that point on, just keeping up with sales and learning the mail order business. And 2 years later, we folded in frustration. But it was the beginning of that interest in technologies that serve consciousness.
Yeah, you're. I mean, as far as today, you're a real pioneer. I mean, that's very early on when this thing that we're really kicking in now was just starting, and so
they call it
honor to a pioneer.
Thank you. They call it the bleeding edge for a reason.
Yeah, and that was for you youngsters out there, that was pre-internet, and the whole idea of starting a business and a catalog was a whole different. You spoke the same language, we dressed very much the same, ate the same food, but there was no internet,
Right.
Something, yeah. So now we have this incredible contact. You can be in Petaluma, I'm in Utah, and people can be listening from all over the planet. Just that is just unbelievable, when you think about it in terms of what's developed in just a very few years.
Yeah, it's truly miraculous that you can create a product and sell it all over the world instantly.
Yeah, and I just want to say that Pam and I, we worked I worked as a wilderness guide, transformational wilderness guide for many years, so I really can relate to what your teacher Lingus, was that his name? Lingo was doing, and very much changed me. And I took my own despair into the wilderness before I did it professionally. And I, sit on the canyon rim for days of time, fasting and praying, and say, what in the hell am I doing in this world? And give me a path to walk, because if I don't have something to do, meaningful to do, I'm sure I'm going to die of despair, and you ought to know, because you're God, and you're the inside of my inside. So anyway, so that began my path, and I really appreciated just hearing that you're helping people to find their true path and find who and what they are and what they're supposed to be doing. And that's just essential for authentic happiness, because until then we're just disenfranchised, we're disconnected, we're lost, and as the soul begins to mature, I think that those existential needs for meaning and purpose and direction and service become ever more important. So
I agree completely. We have to find our purpose. I believe everyone does have a life purpose, and it's buried deep inside of us. It's actually our infrastructure, and so you have to get very quiet to get in touch with it. It's not something that blares out like a trumpet. For some people, it does. For some people, they go, I'm going to be a doctor, and they know what they're going to be, and that they go for it, and they become that. That's rare. Most of us have to, get knocked around in the marketplace, as my teacher said, and fail a few times and find our way through the forest to find our true path. Certainly took me some time. After my businesses failed, I went into actual business. Excuse me. I became a headhunter. Actually, right before I became a headhunter, I was shot and almost killed by a guy, and so that changed my life. I don't think I mentioned this to you, but after business failed, I went on the road selling because I didn't know what else to do, and so I was a salesman on the road, and I did that for a couple of years, trying to figure out what I was supposed to do with this degree in consciousness studies, which nobody knew what to do with, and some sales experience. So I was just selling stuff on the road. I had a van, and I was traveling on the road, seeing the country. I spent a lot of time in Utah and in Colorado and Nevada, points west. And in 1976, I was driving through the Mojave Desert, and there was a guy whose car had broken down in the middle of the desert. So I stopped and offered him a ride. into town, and he accepted, and he ended up traveling with me for 3 days, and I kind of gained his trust and gave him some food and some clothing and took care of him. It was just a nice guy on the road. And the fourth night, he pulled out a gun and shot me 4 times in the head.
Dear Lord.
Yeah, as a thank you gift, I guess. But I had an enlightening experience, survived obviously, and had an opening, so that like a near-death experience, and we managed to get ourselves out of that situation. We ended up talking for 8 hours after it happened, and
talking with
him, yeah,
with him,
yeah, we had a conversation, a long conversation, trying to find out where we're at.
That's the most hardcore therapist / teacher guide story I've ever had. After he put 4 bullets in my head, I continued to talk with him for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
So some people have a near-death experience and it makes them spiritual, right? And I was already spiritual. I'd already studied all kinds of spiritual subjects. That actually grounded me. It's like, okay, I got to get my feet on the ground. I've got to, get solid. Because I was very floaty. I was a flyboy, you could say. Mm-hmm. Not really managing my business very well. It was just like, it'll all work out. so I, suddenly it's like, okay, I need a job. And so I found a job as a headhunter, which is kind of ironic since my head had just been hunted. But I found a job as a headhunter. I became a headhunter, and that career lasted 25 years. And I built a $1 million business serving corporations with finding the right people and doing executive coaching while I was helping companies find people for specific jobs. And I worked in healthcare technologies, so I got I had a background in science, so I got really interested in the technology, and I became very good at understanding what was happening in healthcare and finding people. And I had this intuition, so I could determine who was the right person for a particular job, and that intuition served me. So that was my next step in business. And meantime, I was studying all of the spiritual paths on the side. So I had 20 years of experience in shamanism and in studying other self-development paths, and came across a technology course called the Avatar course. And that sort of put everything together. It's like all of a sudden everything I had studied came together in one solid understanding, and I began teaching that course on the side while I was still a headhunter.
And what year is that you took just to give us
that was 90
temporal framework?
Yeah, about 98 to 2002.
Okay.
And in 2000 we had the first big economic crash, and my business went from being $1 million a year headhunting business to 0 in a year. Because my industry just went down the tubes. It was the beginning of the internet dump, and so at that point I had been teaching, and my girlfriend at the time said, "Well, why don't you become a coach?" And I went, "Okay, how do I do that?" She said, "Oh, you've done enough work. I'm just going to give you clients because I don't want them anymore." And so I became a life coach. And it just clicked. It's like, oh, this is what I was built for. This is what I was made for, is to help people. All the stuff I had studied and learned, I can now give it to people. And so I became a teacher and a coach around the year 2000, and I've been doing it ever since and loving it. So it took me, that long path to find my own purpose in life.
Were you still during this process using any of these transformational technologies as a part of your own practice or with your clients?
I was, and I had taken the S training very early in those days, and I took over 100 workshops from the time I graduated from college to the time I started my own workshops. So I studied with lots of different people, and I was more interested in, I would call, the soft sciences of psychology and spirituality than I was with the hard technologies. My whole business practice as a headhunter was about hard technologies, X-ray machines and ultrasound and technologies for clearing arteries, and so I had a good understanding of tech, but I realized that the spiritual path and the psychological path were really more my interest. So I didn't bother with light sound machines. They seemed like it seemed like a distraction, frankly, to the deep work, because you can gain all kinds of states through these technologies. But what we're really interested in is changing our status, where we sit and how we see the world. And that perspective shift, what I found to be much more important than just getting high. It's sort of like, pot or LSD. It's like great experiences. I had wonderful experiences with drugs, and they were all enlightening in a way, but then you still come down and you still have to deal with the world, and you still have to deal with yourself, and you still have to deal with the world at large. So I found that all those technologies, including the shamanistic technologies, still were a driver for understanding who am I really, what am I here for, what am I here to do. That's what's most important.
Yeah, I agree. In my work, we talk about states and stages. In other words, states, what they are and what they aren't. You can have lots of groovy states, and yeah, they're groovy and fun and everything, but it's really not the deal. And if you can understand how to use states wisely for stage growth or perspective growth or status growth, I think we're talking largely about the same thing. So
Yep.
we're looking for really stabilized awareness and finding your path and giving it back to the world. And as simple as that may sound in a sentence, it takes a lot of work to actually get to that place. So
Right.
that's very interesting, and I think we're really on the same page. Maybe using different language a little bit, but yeah, I get what you're saying. It's very important. So how do you do that, and what are you doing with that now? I mean, after all these years, where does this unfoldment, this development stand?
Well, over those many years of study, what I realized is that all of my major shifts in both state and status had to do with my beliefs. It's like, what do I believe about myself? What do I believe about other people? And what do I believe about the world? And whenever there was a big shift, there was a change in beliefs. So the one I like to use is in psychotherapy. I had the realization one day, it's not my mother's fault. And that was a big realization. Like, wow, it took a year or two to get there, but I finally got there. And when I examined it and all the other transformations, I realized that there was a shift in belief. It is my mother's fault. It's not my mother's fault. Okay, I am my mind. I'm not my mind. Whatever the shift is, beliefs were what was getting changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began studying beliefs themselves. What are they? Where do they come from? How do we get them? How do we change them? And that became my focus, because that felt like the biggest leverage. Like Archimedes said, with a big enough lever, I can move the world, right?
Absolutely.
So what is the lever that can move our psychology? And psychotherapy is a way of talking about things and talking and talking and talking, telling the story over and over again until you finally have a shift of belief, a shift of perspective. And so I said, well, why not just go to the beliefs themselves? Why not go right there? And so in my study, I realized that there was a way to shift beliefs directly. And at this time, I began working with Anodea Judith, who's written 10 books on the chakra system. And she was teaching manifestation, which is using the chakras as a top-down model. Most people think of the chakras as you liberate them from the bottom up, right? But manifestation is the process of condensing from the top down, taking an idea and making it more and more real, more and more solid, until you're taking actions to get something done. So she and I began teaching. I took all my work on beliefs, and she took her work on the chakras, and we combined it into a workshop, which at the time we called Creation is Ecstasy, and that became the book Creating on Purpose, the spiritual technology of manifesting through the chakras. And we taught that workshop all around the world. And so at the same time, I was developing this technology for changing beliefs, and it kind of downloaded. I was going, okay, I need something that will change beliefs really at the core, permanently and solidly. And I just kind of got this vision of what it could be. And when I began using it, it was miraculous. It really went right into the core of the subconscious mind. It shifted beliefs permanently. You could clear a belief that had been with you your whole life, and now it's gone. And then you can also create new beliefs that manifest what you want. So that was the big breakthrough for me, and I began using that technology in my coaching. I began teaching it to students in our classes, and that became my big thing. Everybody's looking for their big thing. That became my big thing. And so I still use that technology. I'm now teaching at the Impact Coaching Academy, and I teach an ICF-approved course, that's International Coach Federation course, to students all over the world. And it's a technology that any coach or therapist or healer can use to help people shift their beliefs quickly and permanently.
Now, you teach this online?
Yes, it's an online course. It's a live online course. We use teleconferencing for that.
Yeah, and we'll get all your. This is going out live, but it'll also be on the website. And when we edit this, we can put all your the content information. Or do you want to give your website address just for those who are listening live right now?
Sure. For my classes on how to use this technology for yourself and for other people, you can go to clearbeliefs.com.
Clearbeliefs.com. All right. So, do you want to? And I know there's actual the technology is not just a thing. It's not just an artifact, but it can also be techniques. Meditation is a technology, just traditional meditation. And when we started getting into this series, I had, well, what is technology? And I kind of had just this assumption it had to be a thing. Then I said, no, it's really not. It's this. So do you want to talk a little more about what this technology is, or what this technique is to clearing your beliefs and coming up with a new, more functional, better, more accurate, more truthful belief?
Sure. And to do that, we need to begin at the beginning, which is, what are beliefs? Now, most people think of beliefs as a concept that you hold on to, like I believe in God, or I don't believe in God, or I believe there should be less government or more government. Right? And that is the intellectual form of beliefs. But what I found was that beliefs are actually much deeper than that they are the infrastructure of human consciousness. And that means that they are what we create our experience of reality from. They're like the Lego blocks that you build a castle from, right? And I couldn't find a good definition that included that, so I had to make up one of my own. And so my definition of beliefs is they are the alphabet that we use to construct the language of our experience. Nice. So that means it's real deep, right? So we don't think of the alphabet unless we don't know how to spell a word, and then we may think about the alphabet. But we use it all the time. It is the infrastructure of our language. And beliefs are the infrastructure of our experience. And so a lot of people say beliefs create your experience, or beliefs create your reality. And that's true, but you have to understand that we're not just talking about an intellectual concept, but an infrastructure of consciousness. So our beliefs are accumulated from the time we're in the womb. We can, if our mother is afraid because her husband's violent, or because she's in a war zone, or because she's in poverty, her fear hormones are bathing the fetus, and the fetus is experiencing fear, and it's inside her emotional body.
Right. Yeah. Not as an intellectual concept, but as an experience.
As a physiological experience.
Right.
And so the fetus is growing up inside the belief the world is dangerous. Right. There's something dangerous happening here. And so that's a belief, even though it's before words, it's before experience, it's before you're born, you're still having an experience. And that experience is the basis of your beliefs.
Now, Lion, let me ask you something. Just to kind of, so you can go on with it. Do you find that most people you work with are aware of these deep beliefs, or these are unconscious things that are doing the interpreting, and in part of your work to uncover the unconscious belief systems?
Right. So our consciousness, everybody knows our consciousness is like the tip of the iceberg, right? There's this gigantic iceberg under the water, and all that in the subconscious or the unconscious is where our beliefs are stored. So sometimes people are aware of their surface beliefs, like I believe that Obama is a great president, right? That's a surface belief. And when you question somebody about their deeper beliefs, sometimes they know their deeper beliefs, like, yeah, I know that I think I'm a piece of crap. Okay, so but when you get down below that level, you find the source of the belief. Beliefs operate like little micro machines, like nano machines that are producing a particular experience. And let me give you and the audience a direct experience of that. Okay, so beliefs create our experience. So feel what it feels like to hold the belief there's something wrong with me. Just take a minute and feel it and say it to yourself as if it's 100% true, and see what experience it creates. There's something wrong with me. And John, what does it feel like to you?
Well, it does not feel like a revolutionary new idea I've never entertained before. That's why I kind of smile. It's like, boy, I know this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it feels...
How does it feel in your body? What does it make you want to do?
It feels heavy,
mm-hmm.
and just like all the subtle energy around my body is kind of turning into heavier substance, lead. It feels like that, and there's a sense of like tears welling up in my eyes.
Yeah.
And
okay, well that's certainly enough of them. So take that off and like throw it away. Just like get it off your system. Yeah. Okay, so now let's try a different one. So feel what it feels like to hold the belief, I am a sacred and worthy being. And I invite everybody that's listening to try this on and feel what it feels like to hold that belief. How does that feel to you, John?
It feels well, the opposite of sadness. It feels it's not joy and like I just opened a cool Christmas present or something like that, but there's a sense of peace, and there's a sense of warmth, and there's a sense of connectedness in my body. I mean, and gross, subtle energy, and there's a feeling of connectedness expanding outwards.
Beautiful. Both of those are pretty typical experiences for people who try on these beliefs. What this shows, by the way, you can take that one off or leave it on if you like.
I'll keep it on for a while. It fits pretty well, yeah.
So what we did is we had you try on a belief and feel what it felt like to hold that belief. And you can try on any belief and feel what it feels like. Now that first one, there's something wrong with me, is one of the most common beliefs. And there's a reason for it. When you're an infant, you're looking around, and you can't control your body, but everybody around you can. You can't feed yourself, but everybody around you can. You can't talk, but everybody around you can. And babies don't know they're babies, right? They're just a being having an experience, and they're trying to figure out the world. And so they can't understand, oh, I'm an infant and I will eventually grow and I will be able to do that one day. So they ask the question, well, what's wrong with me? There must be something wrong with me because I can't do those things. And then, of course, our parents begin to indoctrinate us and say, ooh, you made a poopy, or you're disgusting, or, oh, you're so cute, and oh, look at little Johnny, he's going to grow up to be a scientist. And our subconscious mind is just taking this all in. We're on record mode for the first 4 years or so. And so we're taking all of it in, and we're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to figure out, how do I get my needs met, right? So a baby, for example, may come to find out through experimentation, if I cry and make a fuss, I'll get my needs met. That's a really good belief for a baby. But you may know some adults who are still using that belief, right? They make a big fuss in order to get their needs met, right? Well, it's not very seemly for an adult, but it's still a belief that's operating at the subconscious level. Now, every time you take on a belief, it's like a little machine that creates that experience. So there's something wrong with me, it creates that experience. And eventually you say, oh, well, maybe I'm okay, and that belief goes into the subconscious and still produces the experience. So when something happens, that someone yells at you, it brings up that machine, it gets very active, and it brings up the feeling, oh, there's something wrong with me. This is how beliefs function in the mind or the brain. Is there old patterns, old feelings, and it's a whole multidimensional, multisensory experience that gets triggered or stimulated by something that's happening in the world. And even as adults, we know we're good people and we're doing good things in the world, but something happens and old beliefs will get triggered and jump up and reassert themselves. So this is just physiology, really.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's going to be, if you're going to clear beliefs, you need a system, a procedure, a technology to reach down into the subconscious mind and pull those old beliefs up like you'd pull a weed out of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
If you just chop the weed off at the top, it'll just grow back. And there's a lot of techniques for belief change that are based on just chopping it off at the top, becoming conscious of it. Oh, I recognize that belief's not true. And you know, like for example, Byron Katie's The Work. Right? Great technology, make the beliefs conscious. Now it's not affecting me, but it hasn't really cleared it from the subconscious mind. Or affirmations. I'm a good person. I love myself. I'm a good person. I love myself. That's like stomping on the weed, hoping that it goes away. Right? It just pisses off the weed. It just doesn't really get rid of it. Yeah? So I wanted to develop a technology that could reach down into the subconscious and pull it up by the roots and get rid of it so that it didn't grow back. And that's the basis of the Clear Your Beliefs technology.
So are you talking about going down to a somatic level? Is that where the work's done?
Yeah, somatic. So because experiences are multidimensional and multisensory, any technology to clear it has to be multidimensional, multisensory. So you have to involve the somatic, the body sense. You have to involve the intellect, the mind. You have to involve the emotions and the feelings. You have to involve the spiritual self, the higher self, the subconscious, conscious, and the superconscious mind. And so my technology, which uses guided visualization, or guided imagery, does that. It gets you to feel the belief, to experience it in its historical context, like all the times I felt that way. It involves the body, it involves the mind, it involves the superconscious or the higher self in deciding, recognizing I took this on at some point in my life. So I created it. I'm the creator, so I also get to destroy it. So I'm going to choose to destroy it. And then we have a procedure for destroying it in a ceremony-like way so that it's gone. And now that you've got all the parts of the mind on board saying, I don't want this anymore, I discreate it. That's the word we use. We discreate it, uncreate it, and now it's permanently gone. And the way we can tell is that after the experience, people often say, what was that old belief I had? Which means they don't even remember it. It's really gone out of the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And then, now that you've cleared something, like there's something wrong with me, okay, that's gone. I don't experience that anymore. I don't feel it. It doesn't come up anymore. Now you've created space. And now you can create a new belief or an affirmation or declaration. And then when you plant it like a seed, it can grow and blossom. And it will function the same way as the old beliefs did in automatic form, but now it'll be a positive automatic. So you plant the seed, I'm a sacred and worthy being, and that's how you feel most of the time, instead of I feel like there's something wrong with me most of the time.
Right, and people experience you as feeling that, whether they know exactly what it is or not. There's a whole different energy, and so the effect and the things that are going to happen in your relationship, you move through the world when you transform your consciousness, are going to be different.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting. And I would also imagine that with these unconscious, some of them unconscious, maybe sometimes they're conscious, but these negative belief systems, that this constellation takes up a lot of energy, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and can lead to all kinds of issues. And when you get rid of it, it's like you're lighter, you're more open, and the good belief systems don't have to be repressed and suppressed, so you're going to be using up less energy. So the depression or the whatever mechanism that you've unconsciously used to kind of keep this overwhelming message that I suck, basically, out of your awareness is gone. You know, so
that's right. And miraculous things occur. I mean, people suddenly feel uplifted. The heaviness that they've been living their lives with is gone. They have more energy to do their work and to be successful in their lives. They're not constantly haunted by those inner critical voices anymore. It's pretty amazing. And there's lots of stories I could tell you about students and clients who just have their lives change because they now have a tool. Because it's not a silver bullet. You don't go bang once and it's done.
Sure.
It's a tool that you use because we have tens of thousands of beliefs in us, many of which are negative or limiting. Some of them are positive. You don't need to change those.
Right.
So neutral. You know, that is a cat. is a neutral belief, and you don't need to change it. In fact, you wouldn't want to change it, right?
All cats are evil might be one you want to change.
That might be one you want to
even though experience might affirm that.
Yeah.
I'm not a cat person. I'm sorry.
That's true. I mean,
I was kidding. Cats are lovely.
Yeah, they are lovely, and but a lot of people have phobia about snakes, right? So, I've helped people clear phobias, fear of snakes, and they walk in, they start handling snakes, and they have a delightful experience because they don't have the fear anymore. Now, it doesn't mean you're taking sense away. You wouldn't want to handle a poisonous snake, right? So you're not taking your intelligence away. You're taking away the rules that you've created inside yourself that prevent you from having experiences.
And I would imagine that would work with all kinds of neurotic limiting, like performance anxiety, stage fright, writer's block. I mean, I could think of a whole bunch of things that could possibly.
Yeah. In the 15 years I've been using this technology, it's been used for almost everything successfully. Yeah.
So you said that this is an app that you've developed also? It evolved into an app?
Yeah, we took one part of the process, which is the body-oriented, the embodiment-oriented part of the process, and turned it into an app called iClearit. And I happen to have it here on my phone. Let me show you what it looks like. So this is just one screen. Tell me if you can see it. Should I bring it closer?
Yeah. Do you have a screen share or something that you can put up here, or we're just gonna we can do this. This is just fine.
Okay. So this is a video coach, and I'll play what she says here.
What are you experiencing that you would prefer not to experience? Choose one problem or issue to focus on. The more specific, the better. Click on one of the options below. The first choice is physical pain. Do you have discomfort or pain, such as a headache, cramps, or tightness somewhere in your body? The second choice is emotional. Are you feeling an unpleasant emotion, such as anger or sadness? Or are you just in a bad mood? The third choice is about relationships. Are you having a problem or issue with another person or with a group of people? The fourth choice is about a mental process. You have a persistent, repeating thought or idea in your head, such as a negative judgment about yourself.
Okay, so that's the beginning of the app, and then what she does is she takes you through a series of questions where you feel what the particular problem feels like in your body, and you begin focusing your attention on your body sensations. This is a process called body wisdom in the work that I teach. It's a way of clearing whatever's stuck in your body senses. And so regardless of whether it's a mental issue that you're stuck in your head or an emotional issue or a physical issue, by focusing your attention on the embodied feeling, it begins to dissipate, it begins to lighten up, it begins to break apart, and you clear just by placing a sufficient amount of attention on what your body is feeling. It opens up that flow. And so we call it an embodied mindfulness process. And so this is version 1. We're just about to come out with version 2, starting might be, I think it's next month. I think we'll be releasing it in August. And we're breaking it up into smaller components that are more specific. So we'll have iClear self-criticism, for example, and iClear anxiety. So people who are feeling anxious can find the right app and clear it. So you can clear pretty much anything, and the iClearit program is available now on the iTunes store. It's only up for the iPhone right now. It's called iClearit, and it's $4.99, so it's cheap. And you can do it over and over again.
That's nice. I like the talking head. It gives it, obviously it gives it a human face, and you don't see that in a lot of apps. So that was I like the design. It's very nice.
Thanks. Yeah, so that was an exciting way. We were trying to find one part of this process that we could spread out through an app, and that's the one we chose. So it's not the full Clear Your Beliefs program, but it's a very good component, and it clears things that are in your way. So if you're just feeling crappy, you can move through it in 10 or 20 minutes.
Sweet. And so then if people want to, take it to a deeper level, they can contact you and, do what? I mean, can they work with you as an individual, or would you put them in a class? Or
we provide coaches. So one part of the app is, I want to coach. I want to get someone to help me through this, and so we link people up with our trained coaches.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, we're just talking about basically, I don't know, 21st century transpersonal psychology in your hand as a practical device that you can practice with and work on yourself and transform yourself. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you see happening in the 10 years to come? Do you have a kind of a vision of how this is going to unfold? Do you take it one day at a time, or where do you think this thing is going?
Well, I'll tell you personally and then more generally, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
for me, I would like to get this technology of clearing your beliefs out to 1 million people, because it's so powerful and it really transforms lives. It's like I took my 40 years of experience and study and kind of concentrated it into a very sharp arrow that I'd like to shoot into the society. So I would like people to learn that they can transform themselves easily, effortlessly. It's even fun, and it can shift their lives in any direction they want. So we don't tell people, for example, what to believe. We tell them how to shift their own beliefs and choose their beliefs more consciously. So we've been told what to believe and been indoctrinated for our lifetimes. We don't need more of that. What we're about is freedom and empowerment. When you have control over your beliefs, on the beliefs that have been programmed into you by others, many of whom did it for good reasons, right? Your parents wanted you to believe what they believed because those beliefs enabled them to survive and thrive. They want you to survive and thrive, so they're going to program you with their beliefs so that you're like them. Now, unfortunately, you're not like them. Right? You're a different person, so you have to find your own way. You have to find your own beliefs. But you got to clear the ones that you got programmed with by your parents, your teachers, your religious leaders, your friends, your culture, the television, and find out who you are, because who you are is underneath all that. Who you are is something precious and glorious, and it gets covered over by all those belief layers. So by clearing them out of the way, you get to find out who you really are, what you're really here for, so you can contribute your life to other people's lives. So that's where we find purpose, is underneath all those layers. So,
let me. Well, first of all, that maybe some of these beliefs have served you for a while, but then when you start growing out of them, like you're not wearing the same pants you wore as an 8-year-old. You have to keep changing as you grow. And then, can you say a little more about how this uncovering process of working through these beliefs leads to a part of a whole? This is who I am, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Sure. It's beautiful that you just used that analogy, because in the Clear Your Beliefs process, which people can find at clearyourbeliefs.com, by the way, it's a recorded program. It's a 7-part recorded program that takes you through all these different areas of your life, so you can begin clearing the beliefs. And then the technology is yours. You have it to use for the rest of your life. Inside that process, we use the analogy of beliefs as clothing. And there's a reason for it. The subconscious mind recognizes that when you have different clothes on, you feel differently, right? Pajamas feel different than business clothes. So we invite the subconscious mind out to play by saying, okay, create an outfit, we call them belief outfits, that matches the belief. So there's something wrong with me, we visualize it, and we allow the subconscious mind to create it. We don't create it consciously. We allow the subconscious mind to participate by creating an outfit of clothing that looks like that belief. And so it might be rags, or it might be a heavy robe, or or dark shadow, or it might be a rock, or it might be a broken chest. You could be anything. And that's what's amazing about this process. It's very creative. We invite the creative part of the subconscious mind, which is also creates your dreams, to participate. So we feel what it feels like to have that outfit on. We take it off when we're ready to take it off. We burn it to get rid of it. So that's the brief on the process. And what I tell people is, look, imagine your closet is filled with all the beliefs, all the clothing that you've had since you were born, including all those dirty diapers, right? It's like your closet is stock full of all those old beliefs that you never got rid of, because the only way beliefs are gotten rid of is by consciously clearing them. Otherwise, they just get stored in the background of the subconscious mind. Even when we take on new beliefs, I'm a wonderful person, that just shoves the old beliefs further back in the closet, and pretty soon we're stuffed with this closet full of beliefs. So when you begin the process of consciously discreating, consciously taking off these beliefs, you find out that you're not your beliefs. And that's the big revelation. Mm-hmm. And that's the answer to your question, is how do you find out who you are? You find out that you have beliefs, but you are not your beliefs. And who you are is the one that can have them, take them on, and take them off. And that is your true self. That is your conscious mind. It's beyond your mind. It's really the who you are. It's your soul or your higher self that can manage your life, that can take charge, can decide, and act consciously from a conscious place rather than from an automatic place. Most of our behaviors are automatic.
Right. Yeah, and so this is, I think the Buddhists call it, or maybe I just call it that, but you begin to get in touch with the wisdom voice. And when you become conscious of the old belief systems, it's like, oh, no wonder I feel terrible. And that's an awful thing to think about oneself, or to think about the world, or relationships, or whatever it might be. And you can get aware of that. And then you start working with, you're saying, with the higher self, or that witness self, that the insights of who and what you are, and the directions you're supposed to take in life, and what the mission is, and what you're here to fulfill, and what your soul path is, begin to come up. And it's like, oh my God. Instead of just having to look outside of yourself and try to find, gurus and all this stuff. I'm not saying all this stuff can't be not useful, but at a certain point, the true teacher will keep pointing you inside until you kind of get that. And then just to know that despite all your trials and tribulations or whatever, there is this wisdom that resides in you, and you can really trust it and wait on it. And the more you listen to it, the more you kind of get with it, and it becomes more of a guiding thing, and it just changes the whole game from existential isolation, despair, random, nuttiness, to guided, wow, I'm here, I'm a stakeholder in the universe, and this manifestation of the universe is here in me right now to do this, and that's a pretty cool place to come from.
Beautifully said, John.
Yeah. Awesome. So what else would you like to? I love it, and I just think that a lot of my work has been involved in recovery from addiction, and I think just all of that stuff is absolutely essential in recovery, because by feeding the addiction, you're feeding all the negative stories and creating multiple negative stories about reality, until at the end of that devolutionary process, the only answer is just is become self-annihilation often, and that's how it plays out. So when you start to get sober, you have to go through and work through those conscious things. I mean, just not using drugs is just the first step, the very first baby step. Then you have to work through all that stuff, all these belief systems, and then eventually you have to say, okay, I went on Vision Quest myself, and then I put people on Vision Quest. That was my technology, albeit a really old, tried and true one. But you go out and you fast, and you say, okay, Creator, what's my path? What am I here for? And you cry for a vision, you lament for a vision, you put it all out there, and by the grace of the wilderness and the spirits and God, and however you want to frame that, it starts to emerge if the prayers are sincere, and it's just everything. And then you have to, like you said, after you got shot in the head 4 times, you came back, grounded. And one of the things that I learned on the vision quest path, you go on the vision, and some people are just visionaries. They have these great, eagles and arrows and, all kinds of cool things. The heavens open up, and you get in the sweat lodge afterwards with the medicine men, and, you're praying and singing. He says, okay, what's the vision? He says, will it grow corn? Is it just a big airy thing, or how is this actually going to help the people? How is it going to help all sentient beings? How is this going to be something that really needs to be given back as a gift and response to life? And that's deep and juicy and very, very cool.
Yeah, our wisdom elders knew a lot that we don't know in our modern culture, and it's so important to have contact with those wise people who have been through it. You mentioned addiction, and I want to say that addiction is called a spiritual disease, and it really is, because the beliefs at the core of addiction are, I am a piece of crap, and it creates this hole in our soul. And again, we have it's caused by a belief. It's not true, but you got programmed with it because whatever your circumstances. And then the addiction is just a way of trying to fill that hole, trying to fill the hole in your soul. And it's helpful, having the high is helpful because it gets you out of your down. Excuse me. And it's pleasurable, right? So all addictions are pleasurable. The question is, sorry. The question is, what's real? It's like you get high and then you come down, and you got to get high again. So both of us and all of us in this field are trying to find what's the reality at the core. And when you go on a vision quest, when you get off the addictive substance or process, whatever it is, and you start looking in, you have to face those very dark beliefs about yourself. And when you recognize that they're not true, that they're just a belief, that's when the healing process begins, because you can confront all of those feelings that you haven't wanted to confront. I mean, it feels terrible to feel like you're a piece of shit, right? Pardon the language. It feels awful, and you have to be willing to go into the awful feelings to get through them.
That's right.
Because we feel awful, then we don't want to feel awful, so we suppress the feeling, and then we have to suppress the suppression, and now we've got layers and layers of
right, and you have to take more and get higher, numb out more, get further and further away. In the meantime, you're doing all these awful things: lying, cheating, stealing to yourself, others,
I'm
and
an
you feel
awful
worse.
person, so I might as well prove it.
You confirm it.
Right.
It becomes self-fulfilling prophecy, and then you have to numb out more and more until the end is just annihilation.
Right, and the principle of the iClearit app is that if you're willing to feel what's really there, then it begins to clear. That's the first step, is willingness to feel it. And if you just feel it enough, it'll begin to clear, and the fog will start lifting. Right? So willingness to feel, looking at the beliefs, recognizing they're not true, and then begin using a tool to clear the beliefs, and then you can create new beliefs. It's like building a garden. If you wanted to build a garden, you'd first clear the rocks and the weeds. Right? You wouldn't just put seeds on a rocky soil and hope they grow. You'd have to do some work. You clear the soil, you amend the soil. Then when you plant the new seeds, the new beliefs, then they can grow unfettered, and they can create the beauty that you want to create. So it's true inside of us as well as outside of us.
Yeah, and you have to be Robert Augustus Masters. It says you have to be able to lean into the pain.
Right.
The actual sensation of I'm a crappy person, and then the belief system associated with that, because I'm worthless, have no gifts, and I wreck everything I touch, or whatever that story is. And then both sides of those things, feelings, thoughts, and then you just sometimes once you get the belief system, you have to push that aside and just stay with the feelings as long as it takes. Say, thank you, teacher. That's what I do with my negative things. Is welcome, feel that, and it begins to shift.
Yeah.
The shift. And
so these are our desire, our mutual desire is to share this with the world. There's so many people suffering. Yeah. And suffering can end. That's what the Buddha said, right? The suffering, life is suffering, and suffering can end. And these technologies are ways of relieving suffering. We've had enough suffering, for God's sakes. Like, let's start relieving suffering and helping people get their lives back together, because you can create anything. Right? You can't create everything, but you can create anything. You can create any life you want. You can create any project you want. You can create any business you want. And it's not easy. Nobody said it was easy. And you can do it. But you have to clear the stuff in the way.
Yeah.
I'm doing a program with the Shift Network right now called Belief Mastery. And it's all about choosing one thing you want to create and then clearing the beliefs that are preventing you from creating it. And it doesn't matter what you choose. It could be a relationship or a business or a project or an art piece or anything. If you just choose one thing and then have a technology for clearing the beliefs one at a time as they come up, and they will, right? Then you can keep moving forward. More people are stopped in their lives by their internal beliefs than by any external circumstances. So you say, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to lose 10 pounds this month. And immediately what happens is it stimulates all your old beliefs. This is something I wish everybody would know and we'd teach in every elementary school. That whenever you create something new, it stimulates all the old beliefs to come up and reassert themselves. So you say, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, and you immediately hear, oh, come on, you've never lost 10 pounds in a month before. And you don't stick to a diet. What? You got to be kidding me. There's that chocolate cake in the refrigerator. You're not going to throw that out. And there's a wedding next week, and you can't stay on a diet during a wedding. Those feasts are too delicious. And so people take their goal, and they get crushed by their inner voices, by the old beliefs that were programmed a long time ago. So if you have a tool to clear the beliefs, when the belief comes up, you go, oh, I got it, thank you, cleared. Next one comes up, thank you, cleared. Next one comes up, thank you, cleared. And pretty soon now you're back to, oh yes, my commitment is to move forward with this diet. So anything can be created if you have technology to clear what comes up in the way.
Right. Hey, Pam, are there people that have questions? Oh yes, she's poor thing. She's the producer, and she has this screen here where she gives me all my instructions, which I completely ignore most of the time. So it goes from little words to capitals to lots of exclamation marks. So, Pam, do we have any questions? You want to explain to people how they can join us?
Yeah, just type in your questions here, and we have 3 so far. The first one is from Mike. When you become conscious of a negative belief, how long, many times does it take to clear it?
Great. So I'm going to answer that question a little sideways. The reason you have to do affirmations over and over and over again is because you're trying to eliminate a belief by adding another belief, and it doesn't work very well. So you have to keep doing it over and over, because every time you say, I'm a good person, what comes up is the stimulus response. The response is, I'm a bad person. I'm a good person. I'm a bad person. I'm a good person. I'm a bad person. So you have this kind of constant battle going on inside of you. When you clear a belief with my technology, clearyourbeliefs.com, you just do it once, and it's gone. And it can take a couple minutes. It can take 15 minutes. That's it. And then you can create the new belief in that space. I'll give you a quick example. I walked into a party once, and I immediately felt weird. It's like it was a party I wanted to go to. I knew there were a lot of people there I knew, but I just felt weird. It's like I didn't know what was going on. It's like weird feeling, don't know what it is, and so I wanted to just walk out, get out of there. And I realized I have a technology, right? I can change what's going on. So I sat down, closed my eyes, and said, what belief is this? I knew it was a belief, right? And the belief, it came like that. I don't belong here. Ah, it's an old belief. Just got stimulated. Okay, clear it, got rid of it, opened my eyes, stood up, and all of a sudden I was in a different party. There were friendly people. They were waving me over. It's like, I felt wonderful. It was a great place to be. That took 2 minutes. Okay, so that's how long it takes to clear something that's uncomfortable. Now, if you're clearing a deep belief that's been with you for your whole lifetime, it takes a little longer. And like you can learn to cut your own hair pretty good, but you wouldn't want to do your own brain surgery, right? So for the really deep belief, it's helpful to have a coach who can help you clear them. But once you and beliefs come in clusters, so sometimes you have to clear 5 or 10 of them to really break apart those early clusters. So it may take a few weeks, a few sessions to clear the big ones. And most of us have 3 or 4 or 5 of these biggies that we need help with. But then the rest is just cleanup, and you can do it yourself.
Excellent. Pam, what's the next question?
This is from Corinne. Can you start with the app, or do you need to have contact with Lion's course?
Great. So the app is a wonderful way to begin, but it's just one part of the bigger clear your beliefs process. So the app is kind of like a quick fix. That's really what it's based on. So if you're having something uncomfortable in your life and you want to clear it, iClearit is a great way to just get it out of the way so you can move forward. To really clear your beliefs, I recommend the course, Clear Your Beliefs, because that gives you the technology for clearing them permanently. So the app is the quick fix, move the energy, get rid of stuff, but if you want to clear your beliefs, use the course.
And how long does the course take?
It's 7 sessions. Each session is between an hour and a half and 2 hours. So if you do one a week, then it takes 7 weeks. Or you could do one a day, and it takes a week. And then once you do it, you have the technology inside of you, and you don't need the course anymore. You can just do it yourself for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and the more you do it, like anything, the more you practice with it, the more efficient it becomes.
I taught it to one friend of mine, and he came back to me 2 months later, and he said, "Well, Lion," he says, I used your technique, and I've cleared 200 beliefs." And I went, "Whoa, that's impressive." He said, "How do you feel?" He said, "I recognize myself.
Wow.
That all the things that were stopping me before are out of the way. I'm just taking action. I'm not being prevented from taking action. I'm not sitting around like I used to trying to figure out what to do. I'm just doing stuff. It's amazing, and I don't know who I am." Oh, good. Let me know. He went from being in poverty to doing $1 million deals, by the way. So
nice. Thanks, Corinne. A great question. And Pam, next.
Actually, this is just a comment from Jerry, who says faster EFT deals with the same stuff where beliefs are let go of. This sounds very similar to what faster EFT teaches.
Okay, good. So let me talk about EFT. I just interviewed Dawson Church, who wrote the EFT manual, and he updated me on some of the technology. EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, is a way of clearing the emotional energy associated with beliefs, and I do recommend it to a lot of people. It's a process that's helpful. I was not certain whether, in fact, it would really clear at the subconscious level, the beliefs at the subconscious level. It's certainly good for things like PTSD, where there's an experience that is keeping you stuck. It's very good for physiological and physical problems. It seems to be really good for emotional issues as well. Dawson claims that it works to clear at the subconscious level and things are gone permanently. If so, that's my acid test. If it works for you, great. I know my technique works because I've worked with it for 40 years. I haven't worked with EFT for that long. So I think you should try it. If it works for you, fantastic. And any technique that works for you is fantastic for you. Not everything works for everybody. I've had a lot of people tell me that EFT was temporary, didn't really work for them. My technique works for them. I'm sure the reverse is true too. Some people could find EFT working more effective than mine. My technique is based on a similar process, a similar idea, but it involves not only physiology but also psychology and spirituality. So whatever works, go for it.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, just I like what you're saying, and I've written in my books and my work very similar. I've traversed the same territory, but you have spent more years and more focus on this than I have. So I can really resonate with what you're saying, because I've done kind of similar work myself in my own process. But yeah, you've just done great work with it, and you're very clear and very eloquent, and there's just I don't know who said this, but you stink of truth.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's anything in summation you'd like to, as we're about out of time here, that you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, I would like your listeners and your viewers to know that they can empower themselves to change their lives, and all of the technologies that you're discussing, electronics and meditation techniques and yoga, and every technology that exists is available for them to change their lives. And they can, and all they got to do is try different ones till they find one that works for them, and then use it over and over and over again to create their lives. So you can create your life any way you want. You can manifest anything you want, and you need a technology to clear what's in the way. Sometimes there are external circumstances. Those are different technologies, right? There's in the internal beliefs. There's different technologies. So we live in not one universe, but in three. We have our personal universe. That's the universe of our experience and our thoughts and our love and our lives. We create with beliefs in our personal universe. In the social universe, that's the universe of you and I, different creation techniques and technologies. In the social universe, you use communication, negotiation, exchange. These are the technologies for creation in the social universe. Persuasion, right? So those are technologies for the social universe. And then there's the physical universe. And in the physical universe, it's already created. We can't create it. But what we can do is we can move it and chop it into pieces and put it together and decorate it. So that's creation in the physical universe. That's art and sculpture and architecture. And then you have to involve the social universe too, people that will help you do those things. And so we have the technologies for our personal universe. That's where you have to begin. And then don't forget, there's also a social and a physical universe to also work with to create your creations.
Brilliant. Well said. Hey, well, Lion, thank you so much, brother. This has been really informative and inspiring and eminently useful. And so I hope, this is going to be here. It's going to be in the permanent, evergreen website, so people can go back and take notes and share it with others and share the links. And I really enjoyed this. And maybe one of the things that I've been taking away from all these conversations, which is been amazing, all the people I've been able to talk to, is that collaboration is the new competitive edge. So there's a lot of things you're thinking, and I'm thinking about, and part of my mind's going, oh, I Awake coupled with this would be really cool. So maybe at some point we can just, if it emerges in our consciousness, have a conversation, and maybe we can create some stuff together that would be, just take it, more efficient, deeper, better, more beautiful, more fun.
That's the direction we got to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for the good questions and your presence, and we really appreciate it. And I guess we'll be back next year, or we'll keep you posted how this thing is going. So thanks for the amazing responses we've had, and I think we're just delving into something very useful for humankind at this level in our journey. So thank you so much, Lion.
Keep up the good work. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.